computers are an extension of ourselves. And when we die, we have like a digital ghost. All of our text messages and social media and emails, and it's quite eerie actually when someone dies but everything online is still there.
When someone dies, the phone still lights up, messages still arrive.
In 2011, an email from my brother showed up in my inbox. It had no subject, and the message contained a single link. During the next 3 weeks, several such messages arrived, and I kept feeling frustrated and helpless. Those emails arrived in April. A month earlier, in March, my brother was killed when hit by a car. Those emails weren't written by him. His email account was hacked, and his entire contact list received a strain of spam messages until it was flagged and shut down.
A digital ghost traces echoing through the inbox of the living. Whereas experience expose a truth most of us never considered. Our digital selves don't vanish when our body do.
It's said that we all die twice. Once when we physically die, and again when no one remembers who we are. But in this modern day, I believe we actually die 3 times. Once when we physically die, again when no one remembers who we are, and then finally when you no longer appear in search results on the internet. For the first time in human history,
death is no longer absolute.
You can live online forever.
This is where our story begins, at the edge of life and code, flesh and memory. To understand what it means to live twice, we must first understand the second self we have built in data, in pixels, in the memories of the machine. When Imani's grandfather passed away, the family gathered not only to share memories from photo albums, but also to log into his old Facebook account. There, they discovered birthday wishes he had written to friends, poems he had posted, and photos from family trips. These online traces form his digital legacy, a collection of everything he had shared and preserved on the internet. Weeks later, Imani learned about services that help manage a digital afterlife, the online traces we leave behind after death. Some could memorialize an account, while others could close it entirely to protect privacy. She realized that the digital world can remember us long after we are gone, and deciding what to do with those memories is an important part of planning for the future. Even in death, our digital selves persist, scattered across screens, servers, and storage we leave behind. These digital remains carry stories, memories, and challenges. Next, we explore what that means when we pass away. Our digital lives hold more than memories. They store photos, messages, videos, documents, and accounts we may no longer remember. When we die, these lives remain, often inaccessible, often misunderstood.
But let's start with life. You have a virtual you, a vast online presence that you add to every single day with videos and emails and cheeky comments. And this second life will outlive you. And I'm not talking about just passing on your finest Facebook photos and your wittiest tweets. This goes deeper. This is about capturing those memories that make you, you. I'm talking about the story of your first kiss, or those friends from school that you miss, or the time that you laughed until you cried, or the heartbreak when the love of your life moved to Dubai.
The average user has dozens, sometimes hundreds of accounts.
A study from 2015 found that the average user had 90 such accounts, with the number predicted to double every 5 years. Sounds like a lot, right? I know I was surprised when I checked the password manager I use. It currently holds my usernames and passwords to 253 online logins.
Most families don't know passwords. Most people never discuss what should happen after death. Platform rules are often unclear, leaving these digital remains in limbo. This is the second life we leave behind, persistent, complex, and full of storage. Digital death is largely unregulated.
तो अभी एक लॉ लाने की जरूरत है कि जो लोग इस दुनिया में अब नहीं है, उनके डेटा का क्या किया जाए?
Laws vary widely. Some allow only email closure, others block access completely. International differences add confusion, and the result, hundreds of digital accounts remain unreachable, creating devastating loss and leaving control in the hands of corporations. Let me tell you about a mother's fight that changed everything, at least in Germany. In 2012, a 15-year-old girl in Berlin died mysteriously. Her parents searched for answers in her Facebook account, but it had been memorialized, sealed off, and untouchable. After years of legal battles, German Supreme Court ruled in 2018 that digital accounts can be inherited just like physical possessions. Facebook responded by handing over 14,000-page PDF, a static, unreadable archive instead of true access. The court intervened again, clarifying that heirs must receive full, direct access to the account, not a digital coffin of text. This case redefined digital inheritance in Germany, reshaping how the law treats our digital remains. While Germany set a precedent, Facebook Holly's story shows the cost when policies, not families, decide remembrance.
Holly was like a lot of 21-year-olds. She used all the social media going at the time. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. All those sites and apps have terms and conditions, but she didn't read them. How many of you read the T's and C's? 91% of you don't. So Holly clicked yes and accept and posted thousands of pictures of herself, her friends, and her boyfriend, the man who ultimately took her life. Holly left behind a digital reflection that captured her joy, her vivacious personality, her legacy. Her sister had her social media password, so her family figured it would be easy to remove the 72 photos of her killer from Holly's Facebook profile. But the password didn't work. Holly's profile now had the word remembering just above her name. People could visit, but nobody could log on ever again. When they explained the situation, her family thought Facebook would understand. They would remove the offending photos from Holly's profile. But Facebook said no. They had to respect their best guess about how Holly wanted to be remembered on social media, they said. The safest assumption, they said, was that Holly wished her profile to remain exactly as it was at the moment of her death, including the photos of the man who killed her. This was a new rule. Facebook's T's and C's had changed the very week of Holly's death in 2014. Since then, they've changed again and again.
Holly's story shows grief lives online, but who decides what happens to our digital selves when we are gone? Across the globe, the rules for digital afterlife are still being written or ignored.
Most countries and states don't have digital death regulations or laws yet.
The European Union's GDPR, the world's most famous privacy law, guards the living but forgets the dead. Recital 27 states it plainly, this regulation does not apply to the personal data of the deceased persons. That single sentence left a vacuum and every nation filled it differently. France since 2016 allows citizens to decide the fate of their digital lives, what staged, what erased, and what shared after death. In Germany, after the landmark Facebook case, the Supreme Court ruled that digital assets from photos to accounts can be inherited just like physical possessions. Your digital identity is now a part of your estate. Spain and Italy grants heirs access unless the deceased objected. In the US, privacy takes precedence over family. Under RUFADA, digital inheritance is strictly opt-in. No consent means no access. Platform settings override wills and wills override terms of service. So today, where you die determines your digital fate. Yet across the globe, tech giants hold the ultimate power. Facebook and Instagram offer legacy contacts but block message access. Google's inactive account manager allows pre-planning. LinkedIn lets family, close or relatives memorialize the accounts, and X, formerly Twitter, simply deletes all. From Germany to the US, laws vary, leaving our digital fate uncertain, often in the hands of platforms or courts. But technology doesn't wait. Deepfakes, holograms, and pixels can now bring the dead back to life. Digital life can now be resurrected. Holograms, CGI, deepfakes, the dead can reappear again for advertising, films, even virtual reunions. Audrey Hepburn, Bruce Lee, James Dean, faces and voices brought back decades later, sometime without consent.
They can steal your face with holograms and CGI. Today, we have the capability to digitally take your face and your voice and paint it onto that of another actor. We can even do it with already recorded video. They call this deepfakes. And sometimes it's used for really funny reasons, and sometimes it's political. But this being the age of the internet, it's usually used for porn. But the point is, the living can take back control. The dead can't. Just last week, it was announced that James Dean, the rebel without a cause, who died 50 years ago, is about to be digitally resurrected and brought back to life to star in his own movie next year. And there's been pushback, there's been uproar. Is this morally correct? Is it ethically okay? But we've been doing this for years. This is Audrey Hepburn. one of the most glamorous, most amazing movie stars of all time. In 2014, her face was digitally painted onto that of another actor, and she was brought back to life to sell chocolate bars. And in 2013, Bruce Lee was brought back with the exact same technology, and he was used to sell whiskey. But Bruce Lee didn't drink. So would he have consented to this? We'll never know, because Bruce Lee died over 40 years ago when this technology was pure science fiction.
Even if we control our accounts, the living can manipulate our digital selves. Data can be stolen, voices replicated, faces recreated, likely leaving a digital legacy we never imagined. These manipulations don't just affect memories, they reshape how we grieve. Let's look at that side now. Not all digital afterlives are so isolating. The internet also allows communities to come together, sharing sorrow and celebrating lives that touched many. Consider Randy Pauls, a computer science professor, delivered his famous The Last Lecture after being diagnosed with terminal cancer. Even in his final months, his honesty, optimism, humor reached millions online. His lecture becomes a digital legacy, shared, remembered, and reflected on far beyond the room where it was delivered.
If you had one last lecture to give before you died, what would it be? I thought, damn, I finally nailed the venue, and they renamed it. So, if you look at my CAT scans, there are approximately 10 tumors in my liver, and the doctors told me 3 to 6 months of good health left. That was a month ago, so you can do the math. So that is what it is. We can't change it, and we just have to decide how we're going to respond to that. We cannot change the cards we are dealt, just how we play the hand. If I don't seem as depressed or morose as I should be, sorry to disappoint you. And I assure you, I am not in denial.
After his death, his online presence sparked what many called a distributed funeral. Thousands of comments, tweets, and blog posts poured in, messages of sorrow, admiration, and gratitude, showing how the internet can bring people together in collective remembrance in ways never possible before. Yet, while the internet can unite us in remembrance, it can also prolong grief, exposing us to the traces of loss we cannot control. Paul recalls his friend Jim, whose sudden death left a digital trail that continued to haunt those left behind.
It was a chilly March Monday morning. When my phone rang, I went to pick it up, and it was Jim's home number calling. I let you just pick it up with the usual, but the voice that spoke back to me wasn't Jim. It was Jim's mum. Jim's mum told me that last night Jim died. He got hit by a car. And I waited at home all day, waiting for them to confirm that the body was Jim. And it was. One by one, I told all my friends, and each time I heard them break, I broke a bit more inside. And little by little, things slowly returned to some sense of normality, until a few months later, I get a message from my friend Laura. She's concerned, and she says, Paul, Jim's online and he's talking. Except Jim wasn't talking, Jim was tweeting. And these weren't the usual witty jokes and jovial wisecracks. These tweets were selling sunglasses. Jim's Twitter had been hacked, and that was confusing. That was weird. I was angry. Somebody had stolen my friend's voice, but I got it sorted. I spoke to Twitter, and they were great, and we got the tweets removed, and we got it locked down. But for me, the damage was done, and I didn't cope with it at all well.
Paul's experience reveals the personal side of digital grief, the haunting presence of a friend online, a voice stolen, memories distorted.
When a loved one dies, there is so much pain, sorrow, and hardship we can do nothing about. Let's at least do something to spare additional pain, sorrow, and hardship which we can do something about.
Grief in the cloud is the modern paradox. Digital traces let us remember and connect, yet they can complicate closure, reshaping how we grieve in a world lived through screens. As we navigate the digital shadows of grief, the question becomes how much control can we reclaim over our own digital selves?
Sooner than we think, social media companies will reject the expense and the complexity in preserving the mounting data of the dead. Then the responsibility for our experience, our emotions, our grief, our memories, our history will formally revert back to us. But the choice to take it back already lies with us.
Her words are empowering, yet reality remains uncertain. Policies are still evolving, laws are inconsistent, and platforms are unregulated in ways we might not yet understand. For now, our digital soul remains in a grey, unpredictable space. Even so, there are meaningful steps we can take. Start by seeing yourself as the old 𝐲𝐻, search your name online and take note of what exists. Decide what stays, what disappears, and who will manage it after you are gone. Keep sensitive thoughts, journal, mostly anonymous, so your private thoughts don't cause harm to yourself or others later. With each small action, you reclaim control over your digital legacy. But this isn't just personal. We call on governments, platforms, and policymakers to act to create fair, thoughtful digital afterlife laws that respect both privacy and memory. The world is evolving faster than our ethics, and we can't afford to fall behind. This documentary isn't just about loss or control. It's about awareness and the choices we make while we live. Our memories, our stories, our actions, they ripple forward long after we are gone. Our digital life may outlast us, but how it lives, inspiring others, preserving connections, reflecting who we truly were, depends on what we do today. Our life today shapes our digital afterlife in pixels, storage, and memory. It endures. Thanks for tuning in till the end. Share your feedback below. This is Anis from eTechs, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-da!